Well, good evening, 2025 intern group and guests. Thanks again for showing up for this presentation. This is Michael. Just want to welcome everyone. A couple of quick notes, and we will get to our presenter. Please remember, as you have a chance, to put your name in the chat so that we can record you as having attended the Zoom call, so you can get credit for the 2 hours and put it in VMS, as we always ask you to do. Also, if you have any questions for Wendy, please put them in the chat, and as we have natural breaks, we will ask them so we can keep the flow going. Make sure your mics are muted. You can leave your cameras on if you want to, but you don't have to. And then at the end, we'll talk about our next meeting. So right now, I want to do a quick introduction. This evening, we have Wendy Anderson presenting for us, or as she told me on an email I got from her, the other Craig Hensley. So, I actually attended a presentation that Wendy did at last year's annual conference, and I knew I'd seen the name, heard the name, and then when I saw her on the screen, she did an incredible job talking about all of the information systems available for people to look at in incredible detail. But that's not what she's talking about tonight. Wendy is a native tracker biologist. She is with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. She studied biology, Spanish, environmental services, and public affairs at Indiana University. It says she's a master naturalist herself in the Capital Area Minnesota chapter. Is that correct?
Oh, the Capital Area Master Naturalist chapter.
Master Naturalist. I was going to say here.
Minnesota.
So, yeah, Minnesota. So we want to welcome Wendy. She's going to talk about community scientist, which all of us either already are or soon could be. So it's all yours, Wendy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to have chat up on my screen. So I know Michael said that he was going to follow chat and collect any questions for the end. Do not hesitate to ask a question in chat. I have 2 screens up, so I have one that's just chat. So like I said, don't hesitate to ask any questions. My name is Wendy Anderson, Texas Nature Tracker Biologist. I'm based out of Austin, Texas. If you use iNaturalist, my username is Wendelia, and if you want to email me, I will provide my email at the end. My background is in botany, GIS, and grasslands. And so prior to being a Texas Nature Tracker Biologist, I was a spatial ecologist for Texas Parks and Wildlife. And one of the roles I had there was doing spatial analysis, trying to find suitable habitat for endangered species. And it was really fun, really awesome work. I loved it, but it tied me to a computer. And the reason why we're all here is not to be tied to a computer. I don't know about y'all, but we want to be outside. We want to be working with people. We want to be touching grass, literally. And so I was lucky enough to get my job as a Texas Nature Tracker Biologist, where I can study plants, birds, mammals, moths, while also doing all of that fun data analysis. And so you may not have expected that there would be some guest speakers tonight, so I do want to introduce them just in case they do make an appearance. These are my pets, so they are very talkative and loud, so I really apologize if my 2 Great Pyrenees bark or if my cat, one time during a presentation, he wandered behind my laptop and put his face over my webcam and obscured my webcam. So I apologize in advance. I'm going to try to keep them tame for tonight. So congratulations! You did it, you're here, and I hope you're so excited. So what kind of projects are you excited to get involved with as a Heartwood Master Naturalist? And I don't know how many classes you've gone through so far, if you're at the beginning or the end of your journey, but are you more interested in doing on the ground, boots on the ground, habitat management? Is anyone here really excited about bats? Did I hear someone was really excited about bats? I would love for you to chime in the chat. And also remind me, Heartwood is the chapter that has the big bat colony at the criminal justice facility, right? Is that?
Yes, we cover Montgomery and Walker County, and that
Yeah.
includes Huntsville and the Huntsville Bat Colony at the
Oh,
Ellis
that's
Unit.
awesome. So I've been working with your urban wildlife biologist, Addison Gaines, to expand one of our citizen science projects out into the Houston area. So if you like bats, there's opportunities for you. Ooh, Katie, phenology. Awesome. Literally last night was our capital area monthly meeting, and our presenter presented on phenology. So cool. So interesting and fascinating. There's so much work to be done. Ooh, butterflies. Yes, like tagging monarchs, which I actually have a slide here in this presentation. Um, you want to pull up all the water hyacinth? Yes, yes. Pulling pulling invasive species and being able to look back at your work and see the pile of invasive species is so rewarding to just see your immediate effect on the landscape. Reptiles and education and birds. Awesome, Debbie. That sounds awesome. I love that. So, my as a master naturalist, I can't do work that I do at Texas Parks and Wildlife. So that pretty much leaves K through 12 education and archaeology. And so my niche that I've filled is I take families and kids on hikes as a master naturalist. So I get a kick out of outdoor recreation and education with kids and their families. So that's my focus. So we heard Michael talking about the annual meeting. If you're unfamiliar with the annual meeting and are ready for the most positive weekend of your life, the Texas Master Naturalist annual meeting is going to be in College Station this October. It is such a fun weekend, and is you may want to chime yes or no into chat. Is College Station close enough where you could theoretically stay at your house so you don't have to stay at the hotel? Is there anyone planning on attending the College Station Master Naturalist annual meeting? An hour away? Okay. Not ideal, but possible. Possible. It's going to be really fantastic, and I hope to see any and all of you there. And as you probably were presented in one of your very first classes, if you complete your initial training and do your 40 hours of volunteering, you'll get the amazing dragonfly pin for your initial certification. And I don't know if you were also told about double certification. So please chime in if you are intending to double certify, which means you do an additional 8 hours of advanced training plus another 40 hours. So a total of 80 hours of volunteering to get your Roadrunner pin. Is anyone intending? Ah, Lauren is intending to double certify. Yes, awesome. Love to hear it. That's so exciting. Well, I look forward to seeing your name on the plaque of new initiates at the Master Naturalist annual meeting. So we at the Texas Nature Trackers program are within the Wildlife Diversity Program. Our team is called the Community Stewardship and Engagement Team, and we are within the Wildlife Division. We view ourselves as the go-between between the taxonomic specialists, so what we consider ologists, like the mammologist, the ornithologist, the herpetologist, our botanists, and our invertebrate biologists. And we go to them and see, what are your data needs? What knowledge gaps can we fill to make it so we know enough about a species to start doing conservation on that species? And then we go back to the naturalist community and create research programs and citizen science programs to fill those data gaps. We offer a number of ways to get involved as a citizen scientist, whether it's an entry-level BioBlitz where you require no prior experience surveying birds or animals. We would teach you and show you everything, all the way to advanced projects involving bird banding, nest monitoring, and more. So we have these volunteers approach to our program. So we have three tiers, like I said, whether it was low barrier to entry projects or projects with advanced work or projects that is advanced work that's self-motivated and independent, um, that works in conjunction with us and other TPWD staff. So there's a lot of opportunities for master naturalists to be involved with Texas Nature Trackers. We also engage with the general public and the master naturalist community through our webpage, through our social media, through citizen science trainings like this right here, right now, TMN Tuesdays, and at the TMN annual meeting. My colleague and I, during the TMN annual meeting, are running from room to room, giving back-to-back presentations. So we are enthusiastic participants in the TMN annual meeting. We also try to do year-round engagement. So whether it's through the City Nature Challenge, which I know your area is involved with, and you know nothing about City Nature Challenge, I'm going to plug that into your brain. Your homework is to Google City Nature Challenge. To Pollinator BioBlitz, which is in October, to more intense BioBlitz events throughout the year. We also train master naturalists to be iNaturalist trainers. And we do trainings at the Master Naturalist annual meeting in October. With our BioBlitzes, these are citizen science events where we go out and try to collect as much data as possible on all the species observed in a specific area during a specific time. We try to be strategic about our work with BioBlitzes. They do take a lot of work to set up and host. So if we're going to do them, we want to make sure we get the most bang for our buck. So we try to pick underserved locations that are underserved, understudied, undervalued, underloved, whether that's a remote property that has never been open to the public or an urban park that people don't necessarily go to go birding in, but there's awesome birds there. We also try to do improved engagement and engage new communities. We also try to include a lot of taxonomic efforts outside of the traditional, like birding, walking around and do birding. So we are trying to do a lot more initiatives that incorporate other survey methods. And we also try to summarize our data so people can see the value of their effort. For these City Nature Challenge and BioBlitzes, these citizen science events, we try to connect people to their local nature in urban and metro areas. We try to connect people to each other. We try to connect these people to collect biodiversity data that is available to managers and scientists, and to grow the volunteer community. So this is a shameless plug to follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. We post pretty routinely to both, and we would love to share our passion of nature with you. So the project that's occupying Craig Hensley's, my colleague's time, is the Bat Acoustic Monitoring Project. So he's working with like 85% of the Master Naturalists chapters on deploying acoustic monitors out into the landscape. So this is a acoustic monitor strapped to a tree. And these acoustic monitors will continuously run for 4 days at a time at different locations over 6 weeks to record bat calls. So these are the calls that, like they're echolocation calls. And we can use these to identify the species and then have a better understanding of what bats are in the area. Is there anyone here on the phone call that is either involved with this already or is going to be involved with this summer that they know about? And we included this picture of a bat in the top right corner because it's cute. You're never going to be holding bats. Sorry. So this project runs.
We actually do have people in the Heartwood chapter. Our vice president, as a matter of fact, has done a lot of work and in a group deployed the monitors and picked them up, sent it in, and then we have a group that is going to be receiving some of the cleaned up data and doing data analytics.
So awesome. Yeah, so there's so many ways to be involved, whether you want to work with the landowner to go out into the landscape, set up the equipment and take it down, or if you're a computer nerd like myself and love doing data analysis, or if you're an organizational nerd and you want to help us write the standard operating procedures for the project, there's opportunities for you too. So a lot of ways to be involved. So James, we would love for you to be involved. It sounds like you should connect with the vice president and make sure that you're involved this summer because there's a lot of work going into this project. And the project that I debuted last year and still within our first year is the Great Bat Bridge Survey. So I trained about 35 volunteers in Central Texas to survey bridges for the presence and absence of bats. And so if you're unfamiliar, bats are in decline. Like 75% of the species in Texas are SGCNs, meaning they're species of greatest conservation need. And we just don't have enough data on them. We don't know their extent. We don't know what's causing their declines. We don't know if they're hanging out in certain bridges in the winter that are different than the bridges in the summer. We don't know the specifics about what kind of bridges they need in Texas. We have information about what kind of bridges they need in New York, but the climate is very different in New York than it is in Texas. So they have different needs. And so we're just trying to go out and collect this baseline information to inform us and help us figure out where are our knowledge gaps and just so we can have a place to stand on with our bats to have a better understanding of the status of our bats in the state. We also have a camera trap loan program, so we have a number of kits available to check out for chapter projects. So, a chapter like yourself could contact us and get a kit of 10, 5 to 10 trail cameras, and you would then have the initiative to go out and put them on the landscape when and where as you see fit. You can answer your own research questions. What animals are using this urban park? Or you could go to try to find certain species of greatest conservation need. Maybe you're curious about a certain mammal or what owls roost in this uh, cliff face. These are questions can be answered with this camera trapping project. Oh, and it's completely free, by the way, if your chapter wants to be involved. We also had a loggerhead shrike nest monitoring program. So we had master naturalists in Central Texas visiting a urban park every few days to monitor loggerhead shrikes because loggerhead shrikes are a small predatory bird that is in steep decline, and we don't exactly know what part of their life cycle is where the big drop off is happening. And so we had volunteers go out, work with our state ornithologist and with Craig Hensley to band the birds. The volunteers would then monitor and log in an app where the birds were. So they would monitor, oh, I saw gray over blue, green over silver on this tree in the park. And he was with green over yellow, brown over silver. Um, and so we can follow their family drama if uh bird couples will couple year after year after year. They monitor when they start laying eggs, how many eggs they lay, how many eggs hatch, how many of those hatchlings make it to adulthood, and if any of those hatchlings fledge, and how possibly do any of those hatchlings come back to that area to breed the following year. Right now, the data is kind of showing at this particular park in Round Rock that basically there's minor declines throughout the entire life cycle. It's not like there's like one specific part of the life cycle that they're having failures on. It's like they don't lay as many eggs as they can, not as many eggs are hatching. Sometimes there's nest abandonment. Sometimes these fledglings fall out of the nest or whatever. So it's just um, uh, minor declines throughout their entire life cycle builds up. So this is part of the research project is to, oh, I'm going to preemptively say nothing's happening to this mouse. The mouse is in a secure cage that the bird can't access, but we have to trap these loggerhead shrikes. And so to do that, we put this mouse in a kind of like a shark cage in this trap. So then the loggerhead shrike will come and approach the mouse and get trapped in the trap where then all of us are watching. We'll run over, carefully hold and manage the loggerhead shrike and put bands on it, take biometric data, and then release it back into the wild. And so nothing bad happens to the shrike, nothing bad happens to the mouse. You can see that mouse is not in distress at all. And so I wanted to wait just for a second while it gets trapped in this bird trap. Okay, there it is. It's now trapped. And so the video stops because we all run over and we um, do the data collection. We also have recently completed the grassland sparrow field research project, where we were trying to determine if different management techniques in Bernie, Texas, had an influence on the presence and abundance of grasshopper sparrows. On iNaturalist, we have officially, I guess, officially we have 12 projects on iNaturalist where you can submit data. There's only 6 of those projects that we are actively monitoring right now. So those 6 projects include, let me get a pen. Those 6 projects include Herps of Texas, Mammals of Texas, Birds of Texas, Rare Plants of Texas. We also have Texas Whooper Watch and Texas Eagle Nests. So you can still submit data to the rest of these. For example, with terrestrial mollusks of Texas and for fishes of Texas, we handed over ownership of those projects to more people with more knowledge of the ecology of those. So we're not aquatic biologists. So we handed them off to the Fishes of Texas lab at UT and our mollusk specialist at TPWD. The Red Crown Parrot project is now being monitored through an app, a specific research app, so they don't need to do it on iNaturalist. We got all the data we needed out of the Texas Milkweeds for Monarchs project, and the bees and wasps of Texas is just very hard to collect the necessary the necessary structures of a bee and a wasp to differentiate between species. So it's not one we're promoting. It's just a more of a challenge per se. So for example, with our Herps of Texas project, we had a paper project that people could be involved with. You may have been involved with once upon a time in Texas Amphibian Watch. Please chime in if you've ever been involved with Texas Amphibian Watch. So from 2012 to 2017, there was 41,000 total observations, and 2,000 of those were put into our Texas Natural Diversity Database, which is our internal database where we track species of greatest conservation need. And then you can see that from February 2017 to February 2025, we had a huge increase in total of observations because we started promoting use of iNaturalist. We did iNaturalist trainings. We've really worked hard to increase usage and passion for iNaturalist. So now in our project, we have throughout that short time period, 140,000 total observations, and 8,000 of those observations were then submitted to our internal database to track species of greatest conservation need. I had mentioned that Texas Natural Diversity Database, our goal is to move high quality, robust citizen science data into the Texas Natural Diversity Database from these iNaturalist projects. We don't put all of the data we collect in there, um, because the Texas Natural Diversity Database only monitors species of greatest conservation need. And so we only submit top priority track species, but we're working with the Texas Natural Diversity Database right now to create a secondary database to view all of this robust ecological data from herps of Texas, mammals of Texas, birds of Texas, that includes the species that are not necessarily species of greatest conservation need. So what is an SGCN, or species of greatest conservation need? It is a native plant or animal that is declining or rare and in need of attention to recover or to prevent the need to list under state or federal regulation. And so some people think the government, I don't know, is in the business of wanting to put as many species as possible on the Endangered Species Act so we can get millions and millions of dollars for funding. That is the worst case scenario. We want to prevent the need to list as a threatened or an endangered species. So we want to address a declining population and put management out on the landscape that stops that decline. And so we have, well, about now we have 1,200 birds, mammals, herps, fishes, invertebrates, and plants on our species of greatest conservation need list. So does anyone recognize any of these species? I just talked about this one. This one is called the butcher bird. Oh, well, that's one of the common names of this bird, but it is a predatory bird. Ooh, Texas indigo snake. Yes, I think that's the Texas indigo snake. Good job, Gwen. Ocelot. Yes, Katie. Great. I would love to see an ocelot with my own eyes. Northern pintail for sure. Loggerhead shrike. Awesome. We got our enigmatic large crane up here. Texas horned lizard. Correct. Correct. I actually don't know what this plant is, to be honest. It's not high enough resolution, so I'm gonna a clam. Don't ask me what type of clam that is because I do not know. And a bobwhite quail. So anyone can look at Texas's species of greatest conservation need list. So you can type into Google TPWD SGCN, and it will go to the link of our Excel spreadsheet, which includes all of the information about species of greatest conservation need. I will say that this year we are publishing a new list for the species of greatest conservation need. So that's part of our what's called the State Wildlife Action Plan. So every single state submits a State Wildlife Action Plan to get federal funding. And part of the State Wildlife Action Plan is to identify what are the species of greatest conservation need. And this has to be a robust, comprehensive procedure to identify these species of greatest conservation need. So that's a whole nother presentation about how it's calculated. But this year is the next year that we have to submit our State Wildlife Action Plan. So we might be talking about new or different species, and we might even have different publication materials to understand what are our species of greatest conservation need. So we're going to take a few minutes and do a deep dive on local species of greatest conservation need. So I'm going to put a link in chat. Give me 1 second. So I put a link in chat, which is a list of all the species of greatest conservation need in a large area around Conroe, Texas. And we're going to do a 20-minute exercise where I want you to find one of those species and kind of research basics about the ecology, maybe basic ID, conservation. Ignore that conservation status ranks part. Sorry. Let me cross that out. Threats, and if there's any conservation actions. So I want you to imagine that you were given a limited budget, and I want you to propose a new citizen science initiative or a research project for one SGCN in your area. So you can use any resource. You don't have to cite anything. I would just ask that maybe 3 people talk for a few seconds about their species and what is their unlimited budget proposal for a citizen science project. So I put that link in chat. And as an example, I will give a presentation. You don't have to make a presentation, but this is just to get your mind working. So I'm going to be talking about the grasshopper sparrow, Ammodramus savannarum, and how we can employ citizen scientists to fill data gaps for this species of greatest conservation need. The grasshopper sparrow is occupies the grassland habitat and is a ground forager and nests on the ground. It needs to have like a large grassland that is free from woody vegetation and with tall bunch grasses and some bare ground. It is an insectivore. You will likely never see this bird, but if you did, it is brown and tan. It has a, let me get my laser pointer, flat head with a yellow spot right in front of the eye. It has a dark crown with a light central stripe and has a white eye ring. It has a pale, unstreaked, buffy breast and sides, and the back and wings are patterned with gray and rufous. Its belly is white. And so, granted, you will not see this bird. It is a very reclusive bird. What you will identify instead is the call. Let's see if I can get this working. Okay, that's not working, but it was the call of the grasshopper sparrow. It sounds like a grasshopper, if you can imagine. The grasshopper sparrow is declining for much of its range. So in Texas, it is yellow, which if we look on the side means that it is vulnerable to extinction. There are areas around North America, like in Louisiana, right next door, to British Columbia, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, North Carolina, where it is critically imperiled. And so it's important to identify what are the threats and what can we do to help this species. So if we were to look on eBird, there's a great area on eBird, the science section of eBird, where you can do a deep dive on the science and ecology and phenology of a species. So this is that deep dive on the grasshopper sparrow. So in red, we can see in red is the breeding season. So where is the bird found in eBird during the breeding season? In blue, it is where the bird has been found in the non-breeding season. And in purple, it is year-round. And so you can see that it's in a lot of Texas. It is pretty rare in the Conroe area, but it has been observed there, believe it or not. You can look on that list. And this is the trends, the abundance trends from 2007 to 2021 of the bird. The bigger the circle, red indicates decline. blue indicates an increase of abundance. The darker the color, the stronger the trend. Circle sizes are scaled by the estimated relative abundance in the middle of that time period. So you can see throughout the entire area of Texas, it is declining. There is not a single blue dot in Texas to show that it increased in abundance. So on NatureServe, I was able to see that the threats to the grasshopper sparrow include loss of grassland habitat, high intensity grazing, and annual burning with outbreaks between burning year after year. Also, woody encroachment is a big threat to the grasshopper sparrow. So what can we do as to help the conservation of the grasshopper sparrow? That includes protecting and managing for large areas of grasslands in Texas, to conduct 3-year rotational burning, to prioritize native grasses and sustainable grazing practices. So these are actions that we can do right now, but one unknown is how does the red imported fire ant influence the hatching success, or sorry, the like fecundity and reproductive success of the grasshopper sparrow? That is something we do not know. So I'm going to propose a citizen science project. Disclaimer, this is not an actual citizen science project. This is just for the fun of this activity. So you can kind of see what you might be able to propose. So my project name is Where the Grasshopper Sparrow Sings. And for everywhere in Texas, within 2 to 3 weeks following a prescribed burn, I'm going to employ master naturalists and volunteers and concerned citizens to go out into the landscape that was burned and identify every single fire ant mound within a transect line. And then the biologists and land managers will come in and treat the mound. So again, this is just a 20-minute exercise, so it's 7:37 now. Let's meet back up at, I guess, 8 o'clock. So that would be like 23 minutes. That gives you time to use the restroom and answer the basic ecology questions, basic identification threats, and come up with a citizen science project that had unlimited funding and propose a new science initiative for one of those SGCN in your area. So I put that iNaturalist link in chat. Does anyone have any questions? That's the only time I love silence. Okay, I'm gonna be around my computer. I'm gonna mute myself. I'm going to request that 3 people volunteer, but at 8 o'clock, I'm gonna write 8 o'clock right here. We'll meet back up and talk about our unlimited funding citizen science projects. So I figured I would get off or turn on my camera and my audio so I could show Sarah how I found that subset of iNaturalist, and giving everyone the 3-minute warning that we'll get started on talking about our individual unlimited budget citizen science projects. It looks like Debbie is, oh no, Larissa is going to talk about the Gulf Coast water dog. Debbie's going to talk about the glass lizard. And Sarah, if you want to chime in and just make sure that you want to do monarch, that would be awesome. But in just 2 seconds, I will show you how I got to that specific subset. So I can talk about iNaturalist. Literally, I've given 3-hour nonstop presentations on iNaturalist. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I did it. So if you go to the Explore page, it brings you to all of the observations ever. And to get to Conroe, Texas, I just typed in Conroe, Texas. and it initially brings you to Conroe area. So I zoom out a little bit and I drew a circle around Conroe, which is just all of the observations ever observed in and around Conroe. And this is where the technical aspect comes in. We have a list. We at Texas Nature Trackers have a list of all of the taxa that are listed as species of greatest conservation need. And so this is extremely advanced usage, and I apologize in advance if I lose you here, but wait, where did it go? Okay, so here we are with all of the observations in and around the area to view all observations of just species of greatest conservation need. We go to the URL at the top, and there's a specific verbiage you have to use. So you use the ampersand list underscore ID and then copy the number associated with the list. So this is advanced usage, but that's just how I did it. That's the only way to pull up the subset of just species of greatest conservation need observations on iNaturalist. So happy to come back again and talk about iNaturalist. If you wanted to filter by a specific taxa, so again, we're looking at all of the iNaturalist observations in Conroe. You could filter by plants. So if we looked at all of the species, it's just plants. If you were interested in just butterflies and moths, you could search Lepidoptera, and it would just show only the observations of butterflies and moths in your area, which you're soon going to get your Luna moths, and I'm so jealous. And if you get Luna moths, please message me. So it is 8 o'clock. That means it is time for the three amazing volunteers to chime in. So I'm going to first call on Larissa. Did you need to share your screen at all? I don't know if there was like a website you found that you wanted to show.
Um, Not
Okay,
particularly.
great.
There is one reference I used that wasn't in your list, and
Ooh.
oh, let me pull up my notes.
Oh, I guess I'll share my screen so we can just see what is a water dog. So that is,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
yeah,
I'm not really very savvy about the screen sharing stuff.
yeah, that's fair. It changes every single time. And so you chose the Gulf Coast water dog.
Yes. Which its scientific name is Nectarus beeri. Um, it's basically a salamander, and it lives in like sandy, shallow water, streams and rivers with kind of like slower water flow, more stagnant. Um, it's you can be found all the way in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and in Texas. Um, it can be identified by it has a tan or brown body with spots throughout, and the spots do extend to underneath the belly, which is a little different than a couple species that are similar. It has external gills. It has four toes on its feet. And let me see. If I remember correctly, the small, like the babies and juveniles, they're mottled with light spots on the back, but once they become adults, they get much darker spot coloration. And they can be from 6 inches to about 8.5 inches. And the biggest threats to their environment right now are things like urban development. They have habitat degradation, also from water pollution, and maybe not necessarily completely taking out the stream or the water they live in, but by diverting it or disrupting it. They really like large spring-fed streams, and they need that sandy bottom. It's where they sleep, but also like they attach their eggs to debris, but they want that sandy bottom also to kind of protect the eggs. Let's see. Am I covering everything so far? Because I'm about to go into the conservation idea.
You're doing a great job. I can't wait to hear your conservation idea.
Okay, great, thanks. So the conservation idea would be, I think everybody's kind of familiar with wildlife crossings from some of our previous classes, which can be like overpasses, bridges, culverts. Um, but one of like the lesser talked about one is sub-level tunnels. Um, so they're sometimes called like amphibian tunnels or aquatic tunnels. They can be for aqualife, amphibians and reptiles. Um, a lot of times the best road associated with like road type for these is going to be a raised road. And these are road sections built on fill and are elevated, and they're adjacent to terrain like mid-level on top. So if anybody's familiar with like a French drain or like a drain that runs under your driveway, it's like a pipe that your driveway is built over that comes out on either side. It's pretty much the exact same. It kind of allows cars to just drive freely over the top, but can let the stream continue underneath. So if we had unlimited funding, I think all urban development, as far as like road planning and stuff, would need to include these. Probably even things like larger sidewalks, pedestrian bridges, and things like that. And I think that's it, unless you have questions. I think that would be a good one.
Marissa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I hope we get unlimited funding, because that would be really awesome to see those under road crossings. Just for reference, for this species on iNaturalist, there are a total of 15 observations ever. So, if you're a big herp nerd and you want to contribute to science, this is an awesome opportunity if you're able to find locations of this Gulf Coast water dog. You could increase the number of observations by a lot
Um,
by observing one.
we have them ranked as like a rare, an S3.
Ah, yes. So S3, yeah, vulnerable to extinction. So they're if we look on status on iNaturalist on that species, they're least concerned, um, but they're still being watched. So in Louisiana and in Texas, yes, they are vulnerable to extinction. So that means that they are ranked anything that is S3, S2, or S1, that means that they're a species of greatest conservation need.
If anybody wants to see them, they're more active in winter for some reason. I don't know why.
Weird. Weird. Thank you so much, Larissa. That was really great. That's awesome. We also had Debbie, Debbie volunteered to talk about glass lizards. Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to do the same thing and share the naturalist page?
If you would, that'd be great. Cute cat, Larissa. Um, sorry, my computer camera died, so I'm trying to use an external camera, so you can't hardly see me.
Okay, we can hear you great then.
But I did the slender glass lizard.
Oh,
Actually,
slender.
That's him right there. Yep.
Oh,
Could be her. They look alike. They have the Western and the Eastern, and I like to say the Western has a suntan because most of us out here do versus the East Coast, because the East Coast are kind of silvery. But they look like snakes. They're often mistaken for snakes, but they're not a snake. They're a lizard. Most of their body is their tail. So when threatened, they're known to thrash around, lose it, and then run very quickly the other way. He's not dangerous in any capacity to humans, only to little bugs. He can only eat a bug or anything as big as his little mouth, which isn't very much. They have, I think interesting, they have 6 stripes, including a midline dorsal, which I guess kind of makes them look like a garter snake at first glance if you don't see their head. They're closely related to the collared lizard. But unlike snakes, if you look at their face, they have eyelids and they have ears. I don't know if we can see, you can kind of see the eyelid, but you can't really see the ears on them. You can see they hold themselves like snakes, which are why a lot of people are afraid of them, thinking they're snakes. Their biggest threat, well, let me back up. They're not endangered in Texas yet, but I was looking at the sightings, and in 2017, there were 600 sightings. In 2024, there were about 150, which I find rather alarming. They are great pest controls. They eat ants, mostly arthropods. And as such, their greatest threat is humans. Insecticides paving over their habitat, housing. They prefer grassy, like a grassy berm type along a stream or a wooded. You can see he's in a leafy, woody type environment. That's what they prefer. And I think, they can grow about 42 inches long. They're diurnal, so that's where they run into trouble with people. I think if I had unlimited money, would be focusing on education, a media blitz to promote their natural pest control, to offer alternatives to insecticides like neem oil or just even soapy water. And educating on the benefits that they offer to us by helping control pests. And also educating about they're not dangerous. The only thing that's dangerous is the insecticides we're putting in our groundwater and that we're using to kill the insects that they eat. So I think a slogan could be, glass lizards are friends, not foes. So that's what I came up with.
Awesome, Debbie. Thank you so much. I could totally see that happening. That could be a project that your chapter takes on. Absolutely. So with both of these, the water dog and the slender glass lizard, these are 2 species that I was not familiar with. So thank you for exposing me to new species in Texas. There's new species happening or being like becoming acquaintance to all the time. So that was really awesome. Thank you, Debbie. We also had Monica chime into chat that you had one on crowned cave snail. Are you here, Monica? And did you want to talk about your crowned cave snail?
Yes, I am here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. May I share my screen?
Oh, I would love that.
Thank you. So I came in a slightly different direction. And I may need to be, sharing, a little bit of different things. So let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it. Great.
So I started from the list that you kindly share, right? And I was looking for species of greatest conservation need that were endemic, and I immediately, this habitat description is not available at this time. That is where I zoom in. It's like that sounds like a project, that in need of making, because it is like, let's find information about that. And to support that, and also I really like the name, crowned cave snail, kind of a, roll off your tongue. And look at it in the iNaturalist. There is like one observation, and take a look at like 2018. So I try to put a little bit as you can imagine, it doesn't seem that there is a lot of information available, so that's probably one thing. And this crown cave snail is blind, unpigmented, and it is a new species. I couldn't find exactly, like how new, but new. And it's is different in the uncoiled apex at the top, and there is not a whole lot of information as is part of the problem, and I think that that's a problem. So in a very simplistic way, is like I think I will start to say like let us try to find out how we can find more information and investigate, the habitat, and complete this a little bit more.
So awesome, Monica. The invertebrates in our state don't get nearly as much love as our birds and mammals. So I love to see that you zoned in on a species that there is a major knowledge gap on. We don't know the habitat type. We don't have very many observations at all. And we don't know their range. We don't know their population numbers. We don't really know anything at all. So that would be an awesome project. And it sounds like they are a cave dwelling snail. So has anyone here gone caving before? That would be a kind of a fun collection project to go deep into a cave to go find reclusive, transparent snails. I don't know if I'm crazy in that, but oh, you love spelunking. That'd be awesome. Awesome. I'm glad I'm not the only one. And so it's pretty fascinating with our invertebrates in Texas. We have 74,000 named species of invertebrates, but they estimate that there's possibly, I think, 140,000 unnamed species of invertebrates in the state that we just don't have any information on. We don't even have them taxonomically named. And so our invertebrate biologist is faced with a very tall task of figuring out how to fill these knowledge gaps for invertebrates in our state, how to enact conservation, boots on the ground conservation for these imperiled species that we know about with little funding. So if you have an unlimited budget, you want to contribute to invertebrate research, I know someone who would be happy to take it. But I'm going to continue on with my presentation. So I realized after the fact that it was kind of cruel of me to ask you to develop citizen science projects without really even defining what citizen science is. But it was a great way for you to explore with an unhindered mind without being trapped by preconceived notions. So I'm happy to now talk about what citizen science is. I did want to give a disclaimer that and talk first about what is citizen science, and maybe some people's feathers are ruffled at the word citizen science, which is totally fair. It's a challenge to identify which is the best word to use for amateur scientists that are contributing to scientific projects. So if you are a citizen scientist, do you have to be a citizen for a given nation? No. So why do we need to use citizen? So are non-citizens discouraged from participating? My husband is a Canadian national. Does he feel like he shouldn't participate in citizen science? No, he would happily contribute to citizen science. If there is an expert in the field, are they not able to participate in citizen science if it's amateur science? No. And what is the threshold of when someone is no longer a citizen scientist and they're just called a scientist? So citizen science is defined both in your textbook and on the internet as scientific work undertaken by members of the general public, often in collaboration with or under the direction of professional scientists and scientific institution. And in our textbook, it refers to the engagement of amateur naturalists in scientific investigation. And so there's been a lot of talk over the last 5 years about, should we change the phrase citizen science to community science? And so there was a paper that explored this exact topic. And as a summary, um, they surveyed a lot of members of the public, citizen scientists, professionals, general public, people who have never been involved with citizen science, to see what their perception of the term citizen or community science is. They found out that what people believed was that community science is a type of citizen science, and citizen science has built up a credibility more so than the word citizen science. And so it is considered that community science is a type of citizen science. And so where citizen science is initiated by a primary researcher, community science is maybe initiated by a community. And where citizen science is taking scientific goals and achieving those scientific goals through social, through citizens and using people. Community science achieves social goals to achieve through scientific research. So if you were concerned about the verbiage of citizen science and community science, you're not alone in that. There are other organizations like Audubon, Washington, and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, who have completely changed their citizen science programming, calling it community science. The only concern I've found with this is that there are community science groups here in Texas, here in Austin, that have worked really hard to build a reputation as community scientists, where they tackle community issues, and they don't want to be lumped in with all citizen science. So from here on out, I'll refer to it as citizen science, but you can decide whatever you want to call it in the future. So amateur scientists and naturalists have been making significant contributions throughout history, especially here in Texas. There are a few Texas naturalists who have countless numbers of plants named after them. So that's Ferdinand Lindheimer, George Engelmann, and Jean-Louis Berlandier. So we have like Engelmann's daisy is named after George Engelmann, Lindheimer's silk tassel, and I can't remember any of Berlander's plants right now, but he has a significant number. I think he has a lot of grasses named after him. But outside of plants, we even have a rich history of amateur scientists in North America, including Mary Annings, who was an early dinosaur hunter. The man himself, John James Audubon, who was an amateur naturalist who was really interested in birds, and William Herschel, who was an astronomer. As a citizen scientist, you can engage in a contributory level or a collaborative level. So I talked about a lot of our citizen science projects we have here at Texas Nature Trackers, and you can kind of see how you could be involved on either one of these levels. So a contributory citizen scientist is the traditional route. So this is where a scientist or a lead researcher proposes a project, trains people on how to do the project, and gives them gentle supervision. So this is really great for people's altruistic intentions to contribute to data while learning more about their hobbies or passions. If you want to be involved at a more collaborative level, there is roles for you where you can be more deeply involved. You can help with data analysis. You can help with project design and creating protocols. And you can conduct research using the scientific method along with the scientists and researchers. So there's a quote that says, in the best cases, citizen science blurs the distinction between scientists and non-professional participants, while at the same time maintaining rigorous scientific approaches to understanding processes and solving problems that neither group could solve on its own. And so there are intrinsic benefits to citizen science that would be why you would want to be involved outside of wanting to contribute to a project. It draws people outdoors to explore their surroundings. So it gets people to get outside, put their feet on the ground, and figure out their world around them, and maybe visit parks frequently throughout the year to see the changing colors, the new birds that come in throughout the months of the year. Listen to the varieties of grasshoppers and cicadas as they change throughout the year. So it's a great way to establish a sense of place in your community. Citizen science also increases the public's ability to think critically and improve scientific skills and understanding of the scientific method. By conducting work as a citizen scientist, you can work with your friends, neighbors, and improve that erosion of trust in the scientific community. Through citizen science, you can bring diverse groups together to help take on serious environmental issues and possibly enact real conservation, like possibly trying to find out more information about that cave snail or identifying critical habitat for that Gulf Coast water dog and working with TxDOT, the Department of Transportation, to build in under-road like aquatic pathways so these water dogs can move from tract to tract without getting hit on the road. Citizen science also can provide data collection that is simply just not possible with the current number of scientists. So through citizen science, we can greatly expand our understanding of the world around us and contribute to citizen science, science in ways that would not be possible without volunteers like yourself. So I said we had a rich tradition of citizen science projects here in the US that are not a part of Texas Nature Trackers. So if you wanted to learn more about birds or you really like birds, you can be involved with the annual Christmas bird count. So all over North America, there are set breeding bird surveys where you can go out solo with a group of people and document all of the birds seen. And so this has been going on for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And so we can really see trends in populations and declines in populations year over year through this Christmas bird count. We also have an organization called CocoRAS. People refer to it as CocoRAS. The full acronym is Community Collaborative Rain, Snow, and Hail Network, and collecting and reporting citizen precipitation data. In fact, let me get my CocoRAS data collection tool. Give me 1 second.
While she's doing that, I'll let you know that our next meeting, which is also a Zoom call, CocoRAS is going to be discussed on that also. We have
Great.
weather as our next topic. So this will give you a little preview.
Yeah, this will be a little preview. So when we had CocoRAS come talk to our Master Naturalist chapter, they made oh, there's a whole blur on my screen, but this is a styrofoam block covered in aluminum foil. And so if I get warned that hail is coming, I would put this outside and the hail would impact the aluminum and it would measure the size of the hail. So if you were to go outside, pick up a piece of hail and try to measure it, it would melt in your fingers and that would not be an accurate measurement of size. This provides an accurate measurement of hail. And our local weather guy said, if you do this, if you do collect hail size, he'll take you out to a nice steak dinner. So that was our incentive of participating in CocoRAS. If you are a bug nerd like me, and you want to get into the nitty-gritty taxonomic details of bugs and study how many segments are on this beetle's antenna, I would usher you to go visit bugguide.net. So you can provide all of those nitty-gritty details. You can help identify different bugs and you can expand our understanding of these invertebrates, which provides basis of food for almost all of our bird species. And of course, iNaturalist and eBird. So invite me back if you want to have a 3-hour iNaturalist talk. I gave you a little tip earlier during a break just to highlight all of the cool things you can do with iNaturalist. And I did put a warning down at the bottom that you just want to make sure you check in with your VMS guru to follow the rules and regulations for your citizen science project. Some chapters have different approval requirements than others, so you'll just want to check in with your VMS person. So the Christmas bird count is the longest running community science project in the US. Founded by, I guess initiated on 1900. I said 40 years. I was way off. That's 125 years. That's wild. So we have extensive data on bird populations during the Christmas time. And it's not, Christmas bird count is a misnomer. It's not necessarily on Christmas Day. It's between December 14th and January 5th, just sometime in the winter. We also have a great backyard bird count. So if you would prefer to sit in your cozy backyard with hot chocolate, you can sit out there and document what birds visit your backyard. eBird has been collecting bird watching data for years and gathers more than 100 million bird sightings per year. I went out on Sunday to do a bat bridge survey with a with a master naturalist down from San Antonio, and she has been doing a daily eBird list, a daily eBird like submission for 90 days. And I thought that was so cool and so inspirational. And then she told me that she was inspired by a guy who's been doing it for 2,000 days straight without missing a day. So it's amazing. So we had a few people interested in monarchs. So there's opportunities for you to get involved with monarch citizen science, including Monarch Watch, which started with the University of Kansas. And this is a project where you capture monarch butterflies, tag them with a sticker that has an ID number, and then try to recapture these butterflies elsewhere on their migration to see how far they migrated, or if they died, or what happened, to track what's going on with them. So this is an example of one success where in 2001, in the Mexican forest where they overwinter, they recovered one monarch that had a tag that was tagged in Nova Scotia the previous August. So one butterfly managed to fly all the way from up here all the way down to Mexico, and it's absolutely incredible. So the monarch butterfly is potentially is considered being listed as a threatened or endangered species according to the Endangered Species Act. The decision has not come yet, but this data has been and will be super important in documenting the status of monarch butterflies. If you like monarch butterflies, there's also the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project. So if you have a park that you visit or your own property that has milkweed plants, you can contribute to the science where you document the presence of monarch eggs, when the milkweed plants emerge, when they flower, when they bloom, if the eggs hatch and turn into monarch larvae, including life stages, and if they pupate. So this helps us determine the reproductive success across the range. There's also, if you have a general love of all butterflies, the North American Butterfly Association's 4th of July butterfly count. So that is operating out of Mission, Texas, but there's a number of local butterfly counts that you can participate in. There's other citizen science projects tracking animals, whether it's through acoustic monitors, like we do with the Bat Acoustic Monitoring Project, putting backpacks on wood thrushes and seeing how far they travel, where do they spend their time, what is their primary habitat, to radio tracking black bears. And in this case, it's hard to determine what this is, but this is a Casio watch right here inside of a bluebird box. And this is a bluebird with a cicada in its mouth. So this is actually Craig Hensley's master research project, to determine how many times a day and what were they feeding their young. So my emphasis on citizen science is that you owe it to yourself to volunteer. There is a intrinsic benefit to participating in citizen science. And I would love to hear from y'all. What made you want to volunteer as a citizen scientist, as a master naturalist? And I'll say my motivation, I joined in 2021, after I had my job for like 4 years at TPWD that was exclusively on the computer, and I worked from home during the COVID times, exclusively on a computer. And I was desperate for human connection. And so I enthusiastically joined my Master Naturalist program to get this social connectedness. Is there anyone else who wants to chime in and talk about their motivation to volunteer as a citizen scientist?
This is Danae. I'll take a bit.
Ah,
So I like the idea of being a citizen science. Like my interest in the outdoors is very therapeutic for me. Like when I was really stressed and stuff like that, I spent a lot of time in nature. Um, and it helped me a lot. And so my interest in citizen science is like a way to give back, a way to be considerate of conservation, to like protect the space that protects me.
oh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Knowing that you can give back to your green space that is able to help you so much. Absolutely. And it feels really good when you go out into a park that you know and love. Maybe you've been going there since you were a kid. And if you see trash and if you pick up trash and it becomes like a litter-free place, being able to feel like the world is breathing again, and it smells better, it looks better, and other people can enjoy it too. That's a really positive feeling. Danae says she's a trash collector lady. Love it. Debbie says she loves to make a difference and that has always been the goal. Great for handling stress. Absolutely. When spreadsheets are getting too annoying, ArcGIS online, my GIS platform, is giving me glitches. It is so nice to go out into nature and all I have to do is to put a like a small plant in the ground, and then I can, after 4 hours, look behind me and see all of the plants I've planted and know that I had a positive effect, and that I did that. Gwen says, I love being able to contribute observations that would have gone unnoticed otherwise. Amazing. My little 5 minutes of focus might help someone who really needs to know that info later. Yes, I always am trying to advocate for people to contribute to science through their personal encounters with nature. That is so valuable. Absolutely. In fact, if I'm sharing my screen, Woolly Devil. So this is one thing I just shared on our social media today. A volunteer in Big Bend National Park took a picture of this plant and put it onto iNaturalist. And people all over iNaturalist were like, what the heck is that? In fact, you can go onto iNaturalist. Let me pull up iNaturalist. We can go and look at that observation to see the scientific process. Woolly Devil. Oh, you can only see the slides. Oh, sorry about that. Let me share my screen. Thank you for letting me know. So this is the plant that the volunteer in Big Bend saw. and she uploaded it to iNaturalist. And so there's, oh, right, you have to search by a scientific name. Hold on, hold on. So there's only 4 observations total. The first one being from April 2019, but this was the one that grabbed everyone's attention. This volunteer posted this photo, and this guy right here, you don't know him, but he is the #1 worldwide observer of most species. So he's observed on iNaturalist 26,000 species. If he doesn't even know what it is, that means you got a good one. And it's just all of these scientists, taxonomic experts, naturalists, citizen scientists talking about this one plant. And they eventually found named the plant. It had been unnamed previously. They put it into its own genus. So it is a new genus in the sunflower family. Now, I don't know if you would look at that and say, oh yeah, that's a sunflower. I know I wouldn't. It's about half an inch tall. So it's really incredible what your personal encounters with nature could influence. Really incredible work. And so I am pulling up to 8:40, which gives me plenty of time for questions and conversation. To remain eligible for funding, I have to provide a link to the Civil Rights Survey. So it's a voluntary survey. I can put a link in chat here in a second, but let me zoom in on this QR code if you so want to be so generous to fill out this voluntary survey. And I am happy to take any questions, any comments, anything at all. You're welcome to follow me on iNaturalist. My username is Wendelia. So my name is Wendy Anderson, and I like plants. There is a genus of plants called Weddelia. So I combined Weddelia and my name Wendy to be my username Wendelia. You are also welcome to email me anytime for questions, concerns, thoughts. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Wendy, can you stick your email in the chat?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Also, Wendy, if you'd like to put that QR code up,
Thank you.
it didn't show up.
Oh, are you? Sorry, I have to share my screen again. There we go. Do you see that QR code now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. And also just thank y'all for being Master Naturalists. This is such a great program, and I'm so happy you are all involved. And I can't wait to meet all of you in person someday. Oh, Larissa shared the other resource she used. It's the government guideline for different wildlife crossings. So awesome. Thank you for providing that. So awesome. And I hope that you will hear from me and your urban wildlife biologist, Addison Gaines, here very soon, because we're trying to spread this Great Bat Bridge survey to the Houston area as early as May of this year, which is kind of a scary stretch, but I think she's really excited and really motivated, and she has talked nonstop about the Austin Master Naturalists in Conroe and in the Houston area in the Gulf Coast chapter, who are just so enthusiastic about bats. So it's really great. And if I remember correctly, Michael, you had some stuff to chime in about your next class with your chapter. Would you like to take over?
Yes, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll just do a quick finish up here. First, as always, on the NAG, remember to put your hours in VMS. I think Stephanie has recorded everyone that's been on here, but it's not official until you put it in there. So please do so. Second, our next presentation is the Zoom, I think the final Zoom of our session this year, from what I can tell. It's going to be next Thursday night, same time, same place. That's here, and we're going to be doing climate and weather and a presentation on Coco Ross by BJ Ball, B-A-U-L-E, who's going to do the presentation for us. So be sure and reserve your 7 to 9 time for next Thursday evening. Wendy, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you at the annual conference, if not before.
Likewise. Thank y'all and good night.
Oh, and 2 hours for everyone, even though we're leaving a little early.
Michael, is
you.
there any chapters we're supposed to look over before then?
That is, let's see, let me check here. It's chapter 8 in the book is a weather chapter.